Welcome to Mind Autonomous. I'm your host, Angelo Tahadari. Real quick, I want to get into why we shouldn't use the term or phrase Black Power for race improvement, race growth, or race empowerment. But before I get into that, I want to give y'all this one caveat. First and foremost, thank y'all for joining me on this brand new show. It's the very first episode of Mind Autonomous, and I hope that the people that are with me today will continue to be with me when we grow this show to a prodigious level. Some of the premises that I pose and present will challenge you in ways you've never been challenged before. And I promise you I'm not doing it on purpose. I actually put a lot of thought and time into these premises, and I believe wholeheartedly in what I'm talking about. Some of y'all are going to disagree with me, and that's perfectly fine, just so long as you do it respectfully and intelligently. And if you do disagree with me, ask yourself, is it because of influence, experience, or exposure? I know that the people that I am addressing are an extremely smart and intelligent group, and I hope that y'all will think outside of the box, think critically, see things from a different perspective and in a different light. I want y'all to be supreme in your ability to raise consciousness. And I'm here to learn from y'all as well as y'all are here to learn from me. And if there's people out there that want to do some teaching, I'm all ears. One of my favorite quotes from Socrates: true knowledge exists in knowing that you know nothing, and in knowing that you know nothing, that makes you the smartest of all. I'll be checking my ego at the door right away because I don't know everything. And that's one of the things that keeps me striving for knowledge so that I can be better for y'all. So without further ado, why we shouldn't use the term or phrase Black Power. But instead we should use self-improvement, and once we reach a certain level, self-empowerment, because we need to first and foremost work on ourselves before we can begin to expand that ideology onto the entire race that is humanity. See, Black Power is a pejorative amongst many white folks. Why? Because they know what white power is. Why? Because they know from a fundamental standpoint what white power means. See, white power is tantamount to bigotry. White power is tantamount to white supremacy. White power is tantamount to systemic racism and xenophobia. So when we use the term Black Power, they worry about the tables being turned. And that's a real concern. Even though when we mean it, or when we say it, we mean it in terms of just lifting ourselves up and understanding our worth as Black folks, because we understand our plight from decades past, centuries past, and times immemorial, and for some of us, even today. Doesn't change the fact that it's still offensive to some. Some of y'all ask, why should we even care? And before I answer that, I can see it now. Some of y'all are going to roll your eyes. Others are going to know exactly where I'm coming from, but please don't let me lose y'all on this. But the answer is simple for me, because God created us all. And if God is the father of creation, that makes us all brothers and sisters. And so it's incumbent upon us to find a way to get along with one another for the sake of our evolution. See, if you've ever been a part of a construct that keeps you at a disadvantage, you shouldn't want that for anyone else. I'll say that again. If you've ever been part of a construct that keeps you at a disadvantage, you shouldn't want that for anyone else, because you know what it feels like. See, we got to get to a level of understanding of one another. Understanding is the highest form of consciousness. Understanding is the highest form of intelligence one can achieve. Now, I've heard people say that love is the highest form of intelligence, and I've actually read that. And while I totally don't disagree with that, I will still say that understanding is at a much more exorbitant level. Let me explain what I mean. See, love is an ambiguous term. In other words, love can be interpreted in so many different ways. See, we don't love our wives or significant others in the same manner that we love our children. If we did, we'd find ourselves in quite the conundrum, because that's a form of abuse. See, we can understand someone without loving them, but we cannot love someone without some form of understanding. See, we understand that we must love our children unconditionally, which means if they do something dumb or egregious, we can look at them and say, why would you do something so incredibly stupid and reprehensible? Yet I still love you. See, we have less of a tolerance for those that we don't know or understand or even love. But when we take the time to understand someone, we open our hearts and our minds to so many other possibilities. How many times have you gotten a story based on something someone did on limited information and reacted negatively right away? And then later on, you get the backstory or the story in its entirety, and you realize that makes sense. I probably would have reacted in the same manner given being put in the same situation. That's understanding. That's what understanding looks like. There's no other way to perceive that. If you understand something, you just assimilate it. It's kind of like that difficult math problem that you were once intimidated by. And now that you solved the problem, or you've solved it, it's no longer a problem and you're no longer intimidated. See, people are the same way. We fear what we don't understand. So why not take the time to get to understand someone and get rid of that hate, that apprehension, that intimidation, and that fear? See, black or white power would suggest that a certain homogenous group should possess all the power while keeping another group down. That ideology alone promotes racism. That ideology alone promotes segregation. Segregation does not work. At some point, you're going to have to interact with someone from another race or another human. Let's say you own a business and you call that business black owned and you do business with other black folks in your community. That's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with that. I actually encourage it. But if at some point a white person comes into the establishment, or a yellow person comes into the establishment, or a red or brown person comes into the establishment, and I know that sounds a little ridiculous. It sounds like we're talking about watercolors, but this is the terminology some of us are using. So in order for y'all to understand exactly where I'm coming from, I'm going to get on that level. You would not deny them a service because they are giving you their money. They are giving you their money. So in order to reach a certain level of success and to keep from looking like a consummate fool, you would take their money. I don't care if a dog come into the establishment, family. If that dog got money, you better take that shit. And that's for real. And despite all the racism that's going on in the world, much less America, the people at the top that own these corporations, that run these corporations, that need us for their success, that need this chasm between the opulent and the poor to widen for their success, are taking your money. Despite skin color, they are taking your money. You think they're going to let trillions of dollars escape them because of some difference? Here's something I want y'all to consider. Countries like the United States, Canada, Mexico, countries in Africa like Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, countries in Asia like India, China, South Korea, countries in Europe like Germany, Italy, France, are all doing trade amongst one another, importing and exporting goods. Why? Because they want a thriving economy. Why? Because they want to sustain a thriving economy. And here's the irony in all of it, family. They're all coming together, working amongst one another, despite their differences, to get something accomplished. And you know what's happening in the midst of all that interaction? Respect. Let's ruminate on respect for a moment. How important is respect? See, when it comes to money, we will look past skin color. When it comes to money, we will look past sexual orientation. When it comes to money, we will look past religious affiliation. When it comes to money, we will look past differences in cultural background. See, we will cajole the hell out of somebody when they have something that we want. But outside of that, we don't respect each other. We don't. Respect is the one thing you should want more than anything else in the world. Y'all know the aphorism, treat people how you would want to be treated. I want to be treated with respect, so therefore I treat others with respect. Now, I know that sounds cliche, but that's real. That's one of the first lessons I learned in life. Treat people how you would want to be treated. I want to be treated with respect. Now, I know that's simplistic, but that is for me. Treat people with respect. That's how it should be. That might be complex to you, but for me, it's simple. Treat others how you would want to be treated. We need each other to survive. Think about that. If you find yourself critically wounded and in the hospital, there's no telling who's going to end up taking care of you. It could be a Black American. It could be a Caucasian. It could be a Latino. It could be an Arab who ends up saving your life. There's no discrimination in that particular moment. They're trying to save your life. So you can allow these social engineers to come in here, pull the rules, trick you into being divisive amongst one another. Or here's an idea. We can find a way to love, appreciate, respect, and understand one another and evolve. I don't want to hear no more about this black power, white power, or any other race power for that matter. We should be trying to find power in humanity. That's what we should be yelling about, power in humanity. Think about it. Peace.